I never thought I'd be in this situation, but here I am. My closest friend, someone I trusted with everything, has been taking advantage of me for the past 5 years. It started small, just little things like borrowing money or asking to stay at my place when he was down on his luck. But over time, it escalated into something much more insidious. The first time I noticed anything off about our friendship was a few months after moving to this new city. He had come by with some excuse for why he needed cash, and, being the kind of guy that I am, I dug deep into my wallet and handed him what I could afford to spare. That night, as I lay in bed trying to fall asleep, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something. It wasn't until a few days later, when I realized he had used half of it on a weekend trip, that I started questioning everything. The next time he asked for money was right after his car broke down again. I gave him another chunk, and this time, I began to feel like maybe there was more to the story. But I didn't want to appear petty or untrustworthy, so I kept it to myself. We both seemed to move on from that incident without me bringing anything up. Fast forward a few months, and things started getting really awkward. He asked to borrow my car because his had just been towed for not having insurance. I told him I could drop him off at work if he wanted, but he insisted on borrowing it. The next morning, when I got to the office, he hadn't even texted or called to let me know he was okay. It took a whole day before he finally messaged me to say he had run into a friend and needed some more money because his phone ran out of battery while driving. I gave him what he asked for, but I couldn't help feeling like there was something fishy going on. His stories were starting to sound increasingly suspicious. Every time he came over, he would talk about his struggles in such vague terms that it felt almost rehearsed. He always had a reason why things weren't working out, and somehow, it always involved me coming up with the money or helping him out. One day, I was sitting at my desk at work when he called. He sounded really desperate this time, saying he was in a hotel because his car broke down again and he didn't have enough to pay for more days. I could hear the panic in his voice over the phone, but instead of offering to help him directly, I suggested we meet up somewhere neutral so that he wouldn't feel like he owed me anything. We agreed on meeting at a coffee shop. When I arrived, he looked even worse than I had imagined. He was pale and his clothes were wrinkled and disheveled. We ordered our drinks and sat in silence for a few minutes before he finally broke the ice by saying how sorry he was. "I know it's been tough lately," he began, "and I'm really grateful that you've been there for me through all of this." He paused, looking at his cup as if gathering his courage to say something more. "Look, man, I've got a little bit saved up from some freelance work. It's not much, but it might help cover the cost for a few days," he continued, fidgeting with his napkin. "You know how sometimes you just need a break?" I felt like I was being hit by a wave of nausea as I listened to him. The words tumbled out before I could stop them. "What do you mean sometimes you just need a break? What kind of breaks are we talking about here? You've been borrowing from me every time something goes wrong, and now it's getting harder to keep up." His eyes widened in surprise as he realized how much I knew. He tried to deflect by saying that things were finally starting to change. "You know my situation isn't ideal, but things are improving, and you've always been there for me when everything else has let me down. You're one of the few people who trust me." I shook my head, feeling like I was on thin ice. "It's not just about your financial struggles anymore. The way you treat others, including myself, is a big part of it. You use people and then disappear when things get tough." He leaned back in his chair, looking genuinely hurt. No, man, that's not true. We've been through so much together, remember?" I sighed heavily, feeling the weight of all those years of kindness and support hitting me like a brick wall. "Maybe for you, but it doesn't feel that way to me anymore." The next few hours were filled with an uncomfortable dance as we tried to justify our actions. He talked about his hardships and the difficulties he faced, while I tried to explain my feelings of betrayal and frustration. It was a painful conversation, full of mixed emotions and unresolved tension. By the end of the meeting, we both knew things had changed between us. There were no easy resolutions or quick fixes. Instead, there was an acknowledgement that our friendship would never be the same again. We parted ways without any real closure, each going back to their respective lives, carrying with them a heavy burden of unresolved feelings and doubts. Over the following weeks, I found myself reflecting on all those interactions we had shared over the years. Each conversation, each loan, seemed more significant than ever before. The way he would always thank me profusely for any help I offered, even though he never actually paid it back, started to feel hollow and empty. I began to notice subtle changes in his behavior too, how he would avoid eye contact or dismiss my calls when things got difficult. There were times when I felt like I was walking on eggshells around him, always bracing for the moment when he might ask me for yet another favor. It was exhausting and demoralizing. The turning point came one evening when he called me in a panic again. This time, it wasn't about his car breaking down or needing money, it was something much more personal. He started talking about a woman who had left him because she thought he was too dependent on others. I listened to him with a mix of disbelief and frustration, unable to understand why anyone would leave someone they considered responsible and trustworthy. "I just don't know what else to do," he said, his voice breaking slightly as if he were pleading for me to understand. "I've always relied on you, and now that's gone." I could feel the anger building inside of me but managed to keep my tone calm. Relying on someone is one thing, but using them is another entirely. You can't just expect people to be there for you all the time without ever giving back anything in return. He hung up abruptly, leaving me alone with my thoughts. That night, I couldn't sleep. The realization that he had been taking advantage of me hit me like a ton of bricks. It wasn't just about the money or the favors. It was about how much trust and effort I had invested into a friendship based on mutual support, only to find out that it was built on lies. The next day, I decided to confront him again, this time with more clarity and intention. We met at our usual spot, but instead of coffee, we walked in silence until he broke the tension by saying, "Look, man, I've been thinking about what you said last week, and I realize that maybe things have been a little off between us." I looked at him expectantly, waiting for him to continue. He hesitated for a moment before finally admitting, "You're right. I've used people, including you, in ways that were unfair and wrong. I never intended for this to happen, but life has been hard and sometimes it's easy to fall into bad habits." I nodded, trying not to let the disappointment show on my face. "It's more than just falling into bad habits, it's about trust and respect. You can't keep using people without expecting anything in return." He seemed genuinely remorseful but also defensive. "I know, man, and I'm sorry. But look at me now, you've lost everything. If you could help me get back on my feet, maybe we could start over." I shook my head firmly. "It's not about helping you. It's about holding yourself accountable for your actions. You can't just expect others to clean up after the messes you make. From here on out, I need to trust that you'll be better about being responsible and independent." He sighed heavily, looking defeated. "I get it. Can we at least try to be civil from now on? Just so I don't feel like a total douchebag." I hesitated for a moment before giving in with a small nod. "Yeah, let's do that." The rest of the day passed in an uncomfortable haze as we tried to navigate this new dynamic. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Over time, our interactions became more strained and formalized. I found myself increasingly wary of his requests for help or support, always trying to set boundaries and limits. One of the hardest things was watching him struggle. He would often bring up past favors in a way that made me feel guilty, as if he expected me to bail him out again. But every time, I had to remind myself why this was important. Maintaining my own integrity mattered more than any short-term solution. It wasn't until several months later, when I received an email from him that things finally shifted for good. In the email, he apologized once more and explained how much his life had changed since we spoke in person. He talked about finding a job, moving into his own place, and even starting to save money. For the first time, it felt like he was genuinely trying to turn things around. In the email's signature, there was an attachment to spreadsheet detailing all the loans he owed me over the years. He had calculated the interest rates and amounts with painstaking detail, showing a sincere effort to pay back what he could afford. There were also notes explaining how he planned to use his newfound independence to be more responsible in the future. Reading through the email, I felt a mix of emotion anger at the past, relief that things might finally change, and a sense of closure that was long overdue. It wasn't perfect by any means, but it was a start. The attachment itself was almost an afterthought, something he had probably added last minute as if to prove his sincerity. I took my time going through each item on the list, feeling the weight of every loan and favor he had taken from me. Some were small, others were significant enough that I could still feel the sting in my pocket. But there was no denying it, these were tangible reminders of a friendship that had once been so meaningful but now felt like nothing more than a series of debts. In the end, I replied with a simple message: "Thanks for being honest. Moving forward, let's focus on what we can do together to support each other in positive ways." The email exchange ended there, leaving us both with an uneasy peace that was fragile but real. We were no longer friends in the way we used to be, but at least we had acknowledged the mistakes and taken steps towards healing. Reflecting back on those years now, I can't help but feel a mix of sadness and gratitude. Sadness for all the lost time and trust, but also gratitude for learning one of life's most valuable lessons about the importance of setting boundaries and being honest about what we expect from others. Trust is a fragile thing that takes time to build but can be shattered in an instant if not respected. The experience taught me that even our closest relationships aren't immune to betrayal, and sometimes the hardest part isn't forgiving someone, it's finding the strength to walk away when you realize the cost of staying too high. In the end, I emerged from the ordeal with a clearer sense of self and a renewed commitment to being more mindful in my interactions going forward.